Joining me now with more on the THAAD deployment and its potential influence on the region is Jim Walsh. He's an international security expert and research associate at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Well, you said for a long time that something small can actually escalate on the peninsula. This is almost a drip-drip sort of thing. How does THAAD play into this kind of tit-for-tat approach that we've seen so much on the peninsula?
Well, I think it's really a political problem more than a issue of sort of accidental escalation. And what do I mean by that? If we're going to really address and solve the problem of North Korea, or at least freeze the progress they're making in missile and nuclear weapons, and then there has to be a situation where the U.S. and China are on the same page. They're going to have to work together. On the world's toughest international security issues, the great powers have to work together. And I think we started to see this in March, April, May, and then the THAAD announcement, I think, really undercut Chinese support for going forward. Then we had the most recent nuclear test. That gave us an opportunity to reset and try to put U.S. and Chinese policy in a coordinated fashion, working together. But THAAD continues to be an irritant. In some ways, it confirms those in Beijing and the government who have the worst fears about the U.S., to see the U.S. as, trying to encircle China and blah, blah, blah. That's not everyone has that view, but there are a lot of people who do. And so when THAAD is proposed, naturally those people react badly to it. And that political division makes it difficult for the U.S. and China to cooperate on North Korea. And that's really what they need to do.
Yeah, you're responding badly to this. Well, we've seen protests over THAAD in the ROK. You got the complaints, not just from China, but also Russia. The fact that this lands on a golf course instead of a military base says something, doesn't it? And as Shane Hom pointed out, the protests aren't over, that the folks in this neighborhood already may be gaining their own protests to come a little bit later.
I expect that there will be more protests. The polling on it has sort of fluctuated, but it seems 50-50, maybe somewhat more than 50% of South Koreans favor the system. Part of this is the old thing we all know, not in my backyard. Who wants to have a missile defense system built right next door? I don't think anyone wants that. But again, I think this, the fact that they changed it really points to the politics of it. They've now chosen a place which is less populous, is a golf course. That means there's no one living on the property. It's owned by a single corporation, so it might be easier to get the deal done. But I'm less concerned about those sort of on-the-ground particulars than I am on the fact that these irritants are what can undo what is absolutely central to addressing North Korea's weapons programs, and that's Chinese-American cooperation. I'm not a big fan of missile defense anyway, to begin with. I think there are technical issues here. I don't think it poses a threat to Chinese or Russian missiles, but my point is, why even do it? It's not really going to get us anything. It only makes people unhappy. It's not like the South Koreans are clamoring for it, insisting that the U.S. give it to them. So this seems to me the equivalent of an own goal. We're just sort of shooting ourselves in the foot over something that really isn't going to help us at the end of the day when we have these other more important issues to deal with.
Yeah, it sounds like you don't think it's going to accomplish much. So let me ask you this. I was just in Hangzhou for the G20, and Chinese President Xi Jinping and South Korean President Park Geun-hye were meeting on the sidelines to discuss this. And at the time, he said mishandling the issue is not conducive to strategic stability in the region and could intensify disputes. This kind of gets back to the heart of your message, which is getting China and the U.S. on the same page to try and come up with some type of solution. How do you hit the reset button with THAAD there in the mix?
Well, so far, no one's taken my advice here, but I would say, okay, you've announced it, fine, just let it sit there for a while, okay? We don't have to rush to build it. The North Koreans are testing submarine-launched missiles. THAAD does nothing against submarine-launched missiles. There's no need to rush into this, especially when it's politically sensitive. I think the U.S. and China have a bunch of other issues that they're already upset with each other over, in the South China Sea and elsewhere. There are other issues where we agree, but we're going to lose momentum here at a point where it's really critical to dealing with North Korea. We don't have all day to deal with this issue. Clearly, North Korea is making progress on its nuclear and missile programs. And so each day that passes is a missed opportunity. So I don't think either side should be poking the other one in the eye. Yes, we can disagree on other things, but on this, we need to set our differences aside, and I don't think THAAD is helping with that.
All right, Jim Walsh joining us from Boston. Thanks so much for your insights.